You did it. You made it to Module 9. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. This is so real. This is like my legit reaction to this. I am so proud of you and so pumped that you're here. I knew you could do this. You are incredible. You are amazing. And if you have not been hugging yourself, overjoyed about this, do it now. Do it. Do it. I also hope that you are still on point and you got your journal ready. Maybe you got a cup of water, ready to take some intuitive notes, okay? Because this module, even though it is the last, it is so good and it is going to help you so much after you are done with this program, okay? Like I said, I know this is the end and that can feel intimidating sometimes. I know I have done programs where I'm like, what's next? Okay, I have that coming your way. Don't worry. But, know that this program you have lifetime access to. You get to revisit these things. There are those deep dives where you can explore podcast episodes that will constantly be updated, with just topics that are not topics, but, things that support each of these modules and episodes that support each of these modules. You are going to continue growing after this program is done. And you have already grown so much since being in here. And you've been able to see that through those reflection points after phase 1, after phase 2. And you've got one coming up because I want you to see how insanely far you've come from the start of this program. It may not feel like it. It doesn't always feel like it sometimes, but you have come incredibly, incredibly far. And I just want to applaud you for that. And I hope you are applauding yourself for that because it is truly something to be proud of. And also know that you have lifetime access to our Facebook community. So we've got you. You've always got support. You're never alone in this. And if you are having something you are struggling with or you have something you want to celebrate, we are here for you in such a big way. So, you're never alone through this. So without further ado, let's talk about fearless growth, because I want you leaving this program, it sounds so permanent, it's not, but I want you wrapping up this program feeling fearless in whatever comes your way, because things are going to come your way, and I want you to feel as prepared as possible to navigate those things, from the littlest to what might feel like the most extreme. So fearless growth, right? Okay, being fearless isn't about not having fear. Let's just nix that in the butt right now, okay? So it's not about, it's about, oh my gosh. Being fearless is not about not having fear, right? It's about leaning into the courage to do what's going to encourage growth. That sounded like a little tongue twister, but it is about leaning into the courage when things feel scary. And we've talked about this before, and the reason I reiterate certain points is because they are that important, okay? If you hear me repeat something, and you've heard me repeat things throughout this program, it's because they're important, and I want them to stick in your brain. But, anywhere you experience fear in your life, it is a space for you to fill with love, and that is growth, okay? Whether that is something scary that is brand new, like, I don't know, starting a business or buying a house or having a baby, right? If it's something new, or even if it's something like revisiting trauma, or unpacking things from the past, or having tough conversations with people, right? Anywhere that you might experience fear, it is a place for you to fill that with love and to grow, okay? What I personally love to do is, we have very much been taught to run away from fear. That if we're scared of it, we're scared of it for a reason. We should run from it. We should, duck and cover, like hide yourself, get in the bunker, right? But what I like to do is use fear as my compass. If I can see that something really unnerves me and really scares me, and I'm not talking about seeing how long I can stand in front of a moving train before I jump out of the way. That's not what I'm talking about. Right? We're talking about mental health, life pursuits, things in your life that you want to do from a place of self-love and place of loving yourself, right? And sometimes pursuing those things, a lot of times pursuing those things, can feel scary. And so I like to use that as my compass so that I can see, oh, this really kind of like churns my stomach and like makes my heart race, and it feels really nervous and scary. And that's kind of when I know I'm going in the right direction, because that's growth. That's a challenge, right? You don't want to play a video game that is the same thing over and over and super boring. No, like even Tetris speeds up because it wants to challenge you. It wants to make your heart race a little bit, and it wants to push your limits, because when you do that, you're like, yes, I did it. It makes the, I want to say victory, but it just makes the growth that much more satisfying when it's not handed to you and you've moved through that fear and injected love into it, and that feels better than anything in the world. So I love using fear as my compass to kind of help guide me, and to see that as an invitation for putting, all of this mental health work that we've done throughout the program, putting that into practice, right? And being like, you got this, you can do this, right? So instead of running from it, seeing that as an opportunity, as an invitation to practice the things I already know. And this happens in a lot of ways. And that's what I think is so funny about fear, is that, we have been taught to avoid it, but we can't avoid it. It's unavoidable, because life will nudge you sometimes, and you might reflect back and think about times in your life where this has happened. But sometimes life has nudged you to do the big scary thing, and maybe you listened to those nudges, maybe you didn't. I know there have been times where I've been nudged and I'm like, no, it's fine, I'll just be over here, right? So sometimes life nudges you, and then sometimes life pushes you. And something that was like, oh, okay, I went through this with a friend, actually. I kind of saw it all play out, and life kept nudging her to kind of walk peacefully away from this relationship. And, of course I can't make the assumption, but that was my kind of speculation. And I was like, hey, this could be really good for you. You could end this really peacefully. And she was like, yeah, I totally agree. And she kept going back. So life kept nudging her to have this independence and this freedom and to let this go. And she kept coming back, and then life pushed her really hard. And that separation got really nasty, and it got really extreme. And she was like, it didn't have to reach that point if I would have just stepped away and held to that boundary for myself. So, sometimes life nudges you, sometimes it pushes you, and then sometimes you also seek it out. You seek out kind of the scary thing, and life maybe didn't need to push you, but you kind of intuitively knew, like, okay, I can see that this scares me, and I'm gonna look into that. I've done that a lot. It was very much a hobby of mine for a hot sec. I think I've eased up on it a bit. And now they kind of they kind of nudge. I see the nudges very early, and I'm like, okay, I see you. But, using that as your compass so that you can encourage yourself to grow, and not seeing that fear as a bad thing, really changing your association with it, so that you can have a better relationship within yourself, and also feel more empowered and feel more, have more ownership over what you're experiencing and what's happening in your life. So that's where, all of these, between self-love, self-control, and self-ownership, it's all feeding into this self-empowerment. And that self-empowerment is what beats the bad, truly. So, seeing all those things feed in together, you can see how this really kind of lets you be the leader of your life, even though things are still going to happen, things are still going to be unknown. You still get to be the driver in the seat, if you will. So, you've been doing it this whole time. You've been doing it throughout this whole program. You've had all of these fears come up. You've been pushing outside of your comfort zone. You've been intentionally seeking out places where you can love yourself more. Like, you've already been practicing what we're talking about right now. And these, fears, invitations, they'll continue to come. And so that's what I want to bring to your attention, because I don't want it to be a shock when, you're done with the program and it's like, this thing's happening, I'm trying to sell my house, and everything's going sideways, and I'm like feeling really, sad about it and anxious about it. Again, that's okay. great, that's fear. So like, how can we come back into this? And the secret sauce is that you go back to the basics every time. Every time you just go back to the basics. And I always kind of giggle. There's this quote I've heard quite a bit in the coaching world, and it's probably, far beyond that, but and maybe you've heard it, but it's this quote of, what got you here won't get you there. And that always kind of sat with me weird. I was like, what got you here won't get you there. And I think there's truth to that, and I think it's also misleading at the same time. Because it's true. What got you here won't get you there, in the sense of, I'm going to have to try new things, explore new things every time. So, what gets you to this point in your growth is going to look different than what gets you to the next point in your growth, right? That makes sense. But I think the part that always tripped me up was, I'm like, but at the same time, every time you grow, you go back to the basics. So what got you here actually will get you there when you revisit the basics. Because I see this time and time again. People have their limits pushed, they go through growth, and then they go through growth again, and they experience this discomfort, and they're like, but I've already done this work. I've already put in this effort. Like, I should already be there, right? And it's very frustrating for them. And it's simply that they need to apply the basics because they're about to grow again. And if you could just simply see that, it wouldn't feel so frustrating or so confusing as to, oh, I've already done this work. Yeah, you have. Do it again. Like, it makes the process a lot easier, it makes growing a lot easier, and it makes it a lot less complicated when you see it as such. So yes, growth is always going to kind of look different as far as what's going on out here, or what maybe like mindset stuff you're working through, that will look different. But the process to get you through that growth will look the same, very similar in a structural stance every time. And that's where we don't have to overcomplicate it. We don't have to make it more taxing on ourselves, trying to think of a new way to take care of ourselves, a new way to grow. Like, we don't have to do that. We can just revisit the basics. So I want to give you the map that I've discovered over all of these different times in my life that I've had to grow. And I realized there is this very repeated map that happens, and I call it the growth process. And once you have this map, it's so cool because you get to see, like, know where you're at and also see what's coming next. And then you can kind of prepare for it. And again, this is just like tackling triggers, in the sense of you get to see it for what it is, and then you get to move through it quicker. You get to help yourself move through it because it's not so intimidating and unknown and scary anymore. So let's take this time now to walk through the growth process. I'm going to get a sip of water because that's what's up. Okay. I'm very excited to leave you with this growth process at the end of this program. Oh, it's where my heart is at so much. Okay. So this growth process, I'll walk you through the whole thing and then we'll break it down. Okay. So that way you can kind of see it, and then we'll talk about it, and then I can give you kind of examples of what that looked like. So the growth process, this isn't really a framework, so it's not going to be like a word spelled out. This is going to be the one that's different. It will, however, be in the workbook, so I got you covered. But it's just 4 stages that I've seen every single time, every time. So the first stage of the growth process is excitement and action. So I kind of have these like slashed because it's kind of both things happening, right? So excitement and action. The next one is hope and doubt. The next one is acceptance and fun. And the last one is change and freedom. Okay? Every single time. I have seen this up, it's so fun because I didn't see it in the moments that I might tell you about, but I saw it afterwards and I was like, oh. And now I get to apply it, and it feels so supportive knowing where I'm at in the growth process when it comes to anything that I'm pursuing. So I'm gonna give you one, because I feel like it's a really good story, and it is also a story I dive into in my book Break the Chain. But when I was experiencing my second birth, which was a home birth, I experienced what's called prodromal labor, and that's basically when you are in labor. Like you're in labor, you're having contractions, all those things are happening, and it's just happening for an extended period of time. So for me, that was 12 days of being in labor, like full contractions, 8 centimeters dilated from day one, like full on labor, like baby at any second. And that will teach you a lot when it comes to moving through things on a very mental level, also a physical level, but still. So, I reflected on it, and this is something that is really cool because we vlogged that entire experience, and that's on my YouTube channel. And so even looking back and watching it, it was just really fascinating to see how the growth process actually applied to that entire experience, and how I was able to move through it based on those steps and those phases. So the first part of that, right, was excitement and action. Of course, it's like, we're in labor, it's happening, it's popping, and you have this excitement running through you. You have it just like flooding your body. You're like ready to take action, right? Because all this, like, you're like ready to do the thing. And this happens a lot too when you see people going to like build habits. You can think of the beginning of the year as a really great example of like, yeah, first of the year, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be this, excitement and action, right? That's a really good thing to look at, but I'm gonna stick with my birth story. You will see both at the same time. But, so we were very excited, and of course they had midwives, and so I took a lot of action. It was a lot of squats, it's a lot of lunges, like I did a lot of physical activity. We had our photographer there, like the pool was filled up, everything was happening. Okay, so much action, which was great. And then we kind of moved into, after a few days, it was like, okay, this isn't actually happening the way that we expected it to be happening. We thought it was going to be pretty quick. We thought it was going to happen really fast. It ended up not being the case. And so, in that kind of space, you end up in that next phase of hope and doubt. And so that's where your brain starts to kind of get busy. and that's where the doubt kicks in. That's where the worry, the hesitation, the, oh, can I do this? Oh, am I doing enough? Oh, am I doing it wrong? All of these kind of things start to play in. And then you also have hope of like, it's okay, I got this. I'm going to get through this. like I can keep going. Those kinds of things both are happening at the same time. Now, this is where, and especially if you look at that kind of New Year's resolution type of example, this is where you might see a lot of people fall off the bandwagon, because I truly believe this is where you get to choose. And when you see yourself in this stage, you get to choose, what do I listen to more, the hope or the doubt? I get to pick, right? But do I listen to the hope or the doubt more? I truly believe in my birth experience, if I had listened to the doubt more, it would have made it a very miserable experience for me, and it would have probably lowered my self-worth a lot. And I will say this, thanks to the midwives that I had there, and thanks honestly to my husband, who helped encourage me to focus more on that hope. I was very much at a point where I was like, anytime I basically laid down, the contractions would subside. And I felt like every time I rested, I was quitting and I was giving up on our baby and I wasn't trying hard enough. And it was a lot of that doubt, And he was like, no, like, you are doing everything. This is like, you are doing what you can. You deserve to rest. Like, that's okay. This is going to happen. Like, we're going to make this happen. And his words were so encouraging. And so it helped me lean into that hope. And sometimes you need support in that, and that's okay. And so then, after that, it's kind of where it feels like work, because you have to choose, where am I going to keep my focus? What am I going to allow to fuel me? What am I going to, do? And then you get to move into this next phase after that. Once you've kind of made that commitment, and truly, doubt, will typically make you fall off that bandwagon. However, in the case of birth, of course, I don't think you're just going to fall, just not going to have the baby if you're doubting yourself a bunch, right? But you will kind of go into those next stages of acceptance, but it's going to be kind of a darker acceptance of you can say it more negative. I talk in an episode about healthy acceptance, having healthy acceptance. And so, unhealthy acceptance would be well, this is just how it is. I'm just worthless. This is the worst. And then, moving into the last stage. But you understand what I'm saying. So it's not that you're not always going to move forward, but it just might look different how you move forward. So, you've got your excitement, your action, you got your hope and your doubt, and then you have acceptance and fun. And in my birth experience, that very much looked like, I was this baby's coming no matter what. I'm going to rest. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm still going to get up and move as well. But I'm just going to just trust that this is all happening the way it needs to happen and be in that space. And so I very much had acceptance with yep, I'm just riding the prodromal labor train, and I just started having fun with it. We went out to the aquarium, and I was well aware that I could potentially have a baby in an aquarium, but I was I'm just gonna have fun. I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna sit here and worry and stew and try to work, right, make it all happen and force it. I'm just gonna accept that this is where I'm at and have fun with it and go and get myself breakfast or do whatever. And once you're in that stage, it's a lot more relaxed. Your guard's down, basically, when it comes to growth. You've taken this kind of, done the action, you've done the mental work, right, with the hope and the doubt, and then you have this acceptance and fun, and that's kind of where you hit this point of surrender, whether that's from a place of empowered surrender or a place of defeated surrender, right? But you end up in this place of surrender, and then it leads you into that last stage, which is change and freedom. Now, this is kind of where you'll see the, I feel whenever we see success stories, it's this, oh, this was the one thing that changed it all, even though, we're dismissing the whole rest of the growth process that led to that one pivotal moment. But sometimes, that's what it is. It's this one moment of change that just catapults everything into that growth that you've been wanting, right? And sometimes it just kind of naturally rolls into that freedom and that growth, right? Being in that next place. And for us, that looked like kind of reaching I think it was day 11 and making the decision, I don't know if it was day 11 or 10, but basically we made the decision of, okay, you know what, we're really trying to let this happen naturally and let this wait out, but let's go ahead and schedule an induction date. I was very resistant to it at first, and then I was okay, at this point, let's do it, but let's schedule it a couple days out, so that way, just in case, there's still time for her to come if she wants to come on her own. And if she wants to, then that'll happen. So, we scheduled this induction date, and lo and behold, it was the next day or something that she came. And it was amazing. And so it was really cool to take even an experience like birth and see this growth process in action. And like I said, you can see this in a New Year's resolution. You can see this in the creation and success of a business. You can see this in learning to love yourself. You can see this in beating the bad, right? It starts with that excitement and action of I've got to do this. I got to make this happen. Okay, I'm ready to do this work. And then it feels like work, right? Because you're in that hope and that doubt stage of, can I do this? Can I make this happen? Yes, I can do this. Yes, I've got that. All right. And then you kind of move on to that acceptance and that fun of, okay, I'm doing this. I'm making this work. I'm going to just start having fun with it. I'm going to start to apply this and be gratitude nuggets and yada, yada, right? And then you get into that change and that freedom. And for me, that change, looked like, okay, I'm going to shift the amount of work that I'm doing so I'm not so stressed out, and I stop having these monthly meltdowns, and then creating that ultimate freedom, right? So you get to see how this applies in all these different areas. So this is your map moving forward. Anytime you find yourself in a process or in a place where you are experiencing growth, or you're going through something that feels tough, look at this and look at it as a map and be like, where am I at? And can I look and see where I was? And can I look and see where I'm going? And once you do that, you get really good footing for how you can better support yourself through that process, right? And so that excitement and that action, can look like more of the self-control work. That hope and that doubt can look a lot like the self-love work. That acceptance and that fun, again, can look like that, maybe that forgiveness work and that letting go, and that just like trusting and being in that space, and that change and that freedom. That's kind of the inevitable step, but you can kind of see where you can go and grab tools that'll support you in each of these stages of the growth process. So I hope that you are very excited to have that be kind of that like final piece that you get to play with in the puzzle to help you moving forward. And know that even though this is the last module, yes, there is a workbook. I have the growth process in there. There are still actionable steps you can take, and there are still journal prompts. Please go in there and do them. Finish this out with a bang. And also know that when you do the next thing that unlocks, please fill out that reflection, because it is a massive benefit to you to see how far you've come. Because yes, we're going to talk about how far you've come in phase 3, but we are going to talk about how far you've come from phase 1 and module 1. So, it's very empowering to see your growth and how much you've changed and who you are now versus how you were when you came in. So please make sure you do that. And when you do that, it's going to unlock a special little something for you. So that's your incentive to do it. But yes, I have a very, very special thing that is exclusive to Beat the Bad that is going to be unlocking after you finish that reflection. So I hope you go and do it, and I hope also that you share in our group that you finished, and celebrate that, and let us celebrate with you and celebrate you, and and know that you get to still be in connection with all of us, and we still get to help you, support you, be there for you through all of the things. So I really hope you enjoyed this program. I hope it was massively beneficial for you. And I am sending you so much love and encouragement. I know you are going to do amazing things and wonderful things with everything that you've learned here. And I'm just so dang proud of you for making it to this point. So, love you so much. So proud of you. I will celebrate with you in the Facebook group.